This is a tutorial video to help you successfully navigate the virtual lab related to Pre-Algebra Module 9, Introduction to Inequalities. The description reads as follows. The objective of this lab is to use blue and red points on a number line to analyze the meaning of one variable inequalities. We are specifically going to look at this link here. Quick reminder, please don't forget to complete your pre-lab question. What do the following symbols represent in words? Over here you got 4 symbols. Write the meaning of each one in words. Here we have the procedures. I'll start on step 3A. 3A says that the blue points represent positive values, the red points represent negative values, and in Desmos it is possible to write compound statements like AND statements, where you could have x is greater than 0 and x is less than 1 at the same time. You can also have OR statements where x is less than 0 or x is greater than 1 at the same time. I'm going to record all your answers below, not on the screen. You do not need to type an answer to move on to the next page. The screen is not locked, so if you don't type an answer on the screen, you can navigate back and forth. And number 5, once completed, do not submit to the teacher as instructed on the final screen of the activity. All of your answers will be recorded down here on the lab sheet. So let's read under calculations, question number 1. It's titled warm-up number 1. And just to show you on Desmos, when I'm on the Desmos slide, the title is up here at the top, warm-up number 1. So this corresponds with warm-up number 1 question right here under calculations. The directions are drag the purple points to highlight more blue points than red points. When you finish, fill in the blanks below. So we're going to fill in the number of blue points you collected, the number of red points you collected, and the total score. Here I am on the Desmos page. Quick note, these are the navigation buttons up here on the upper right corner. If I click next, it moves me to the next slide. This is slide number 2 of 11. This is slide number 3 of 11. If I want to go back to the previous slide, I go over here to the left and click the back button. So I'm back to slide number 1 of 11, warm-up number 1. And the directions here are very similar to what was on the lab. You want to collect some blue points, aim for a high score, and so far I've collected 0 blue points, 0 red points, and my score is 0. So I'm going to drag this purple point over, and when I do, pay attention to the points above 0. Right now, I have 1 open circle in blue above 0 on the top number line, and on the bottom number line, I have 2 open circles in red above 0. When I drag over, notice that the circles become closed. So I have 1 blue circle and 2 red circles now as part of my collection, and that's what it reads up here. 1 blue point and 2 red points. My score is -1. I can drag this as far as I want, so maybe I'll go all the way out here to between 9 and 10, and all of these points are collected. It says I've collected 19 blue points, 17 red points, and my score is 2. I also can drag the left side of this region. So I may want to go between 5 and 6. So I've collected now everything that's dark blue. I've collected 5 blue points, 10 red points, and my score is -5. So whatever you settle on, you're going to go to your lab sheet, and you're going to fill in the number of blue points here, the number of red points, and your total score. And your goal is to get the highest possible score. Obviously, I settled for -5. That's not even close to the highest possible score. I know you could beat that. Looking back on the lab sheet, I'm now at warm-up number 2. And this time it says edit the inequality to maximize your score. And I'm going to type in the inequality here and my maximum score right here. So let's navigate over from slide number 1 to slide number 2. We're given the inequality, at least I have x greater than 2. You might have something slightly different, but that's what I have. And with x greater than 2, it tells me I've collected 13 blue points, 16 red points, and a score is -13. If I change this to a 0, I now have x is greater than 0. So I've collected 12 blue points, 16 red points, and my score is -4. If I want to include 0, all the points in 0, I place my cursor between the inequality symbol and the 0, and I press equals on my keyboard, and now I have x is greater than or equal to 0, and you can see the 4 blue points above 0 are now closed, meaning they're included, they're part of my solution set. I also have the ability to type using this keyboard feature here. If you don't have a keyboard attached to your device and you want to type in on your screen, click on Open Keyboard, and I can use this feature to type in. So let's say I want to write in a compound inequality. So I'll clear that out. And I'm going to say, let's take everything from 5. I use the 4 inequality symbols over here, so I'm going to use less than. My variable x is over here on the right. I click x, and then I'm going to use less than 10. So type in the number 10. I can hide my keyboard by touching the down arrows here, or I can also click on the keyboard symbol again. So I have a compound inequality. X is between 5 and 10, and you can see the score. It gave me -11. If I want to change that to an OR statement, I can click on the keyboard again or use my main keyboard on my device and type in an OR statement. Well, let's say I want to type in x is less than 1. So using the online keypad, I type in x less than 1. The comma is located right here above the pi, so I would type that comma in for OR. I can also have, let's do x greater than 7. So x greater than or equal to 7. I'll type that in. So that's what this region represents. It's x less than 1, and or x is greater than or equal to 7. And I've collected 4 blue points, 10 red points, for a score of -6. There's 2 ways to hide the keyboard. I can click Close Keyboard here, or the down arrow. This time I'll click Close Keyboard, and I can see the full screen showing both the blue and red points. You don't have to submit. That's not required. I can go to my lab sheet and type in the inequality here and type in my score right here. Whether you use a compound inequality or a single inequality, make sure you go for the highest possible score. So try different variations until you get a score that you think is the highest possible score. Let's move on past slide number 3. It's very similar to the previous one. Just note this says challenge number 1. So on your lab sheet, right here, see it says challenge number 1. So question number 3 goes with slide 3 on the activity. But I want to focus a little bit on settled dispute. Who is correct, Mara or David? So let's go take a look at the Desmos activity and see what that slide has to offer. So on this slide, we have settled dispute. We have Mara, and she thinks that x less than or equal to 6 will earn the highest possible score. David has a slightly different opinion. He thinks it's x less than 6. Who's correct? And it says here, use the sketch tool to help decide, or if it helps illustrate your thinking, you can use the sketch tool. And you'll pick either Mara or David on your lab sheet. So when I go here, it's right here, you would circle either Mara or David. So the sketch tool. This pen right here allows you to draw. What I'm doing with my mouse is I'm depressing the left key and dragging the mouse across. If I don't like the line, I can undo by clicking on that undo button right there. I can also, if I want to draw a straight line, oh, that's a terrible straight line. I did that on purpose. You can use the eraser, click on the eraser, and then this light gray dot will show up and it erases the line that I drew. If I want to draw a straighter line, I can click on this line segment tool, and clicking on the left key of my mouse, I drag down, and now I have a much straighter line than I had before. So I can create my regions to help determine who was correct, Mara or David, by collecting the most dots. Let me undo that. Another feature about the pen, I can edit my pen. If I click on the drop down arrow here, I can make it change the color. Say I like purple. I can use a purple line. I can make the line thicker. That's moving to the right, it makes a thicker line. And if I move all the way to the left, it makes a thinner line. So I can adjust the size of the line in varying thicknesses, and I can also change the color. Let me erase those. Not that you might need it, but I'll mention it. You can also type. So you can have a text box here where you can add text. And you also have math features if you want to add math notation to your screen as well. I think for the most part, though, in my opinion, you'll probably use either of these two the most. So that's just a brief tutorial on how to use the sketch feature. You're going to continue moving on through the lab by clicking the next button. I'm going to take you up to slide number 10. This is the last of 11. Notice it says challenge 6 right up here at the top. When I go to the lab sheet, question 10, challenge 6. So slide 10 and question 10 on the lab sheet go together. And just like you did on the previous slides, you'll be writing in your inequality, the number of blue points, the number of red points, and the total score. Now, even though this Desmos activity finishes here, the lab sheet does not. So you'll notice you do have 3 more exercise questions where you're going to solve algebraic inequalities. And then we have 2 conclusion questions. Number 1 is which of the following are not solutions to the inequality 3x plus 2 is greater than 62. So it could be 1 or more answers for this solution. Here's your choices. And then here it says explain why number 1 and number 4 are different. That's referring back up here to the previous questions under challenge. Question 4 and 7 up here. What was different about them and why? So you want to explain that as part of your conclusion. And that takes us to the end of the lab sheet. So that is a little tutorial to help you successfully complete the lab sheet and submit it to your instructor. I'll talk to you again on the next instructional video.